Fanny Mendelssohn. Her first name is a diminutive of Franziska, descended maternally from Daniel Itzhak, court Jew, a racist term for banker to Frederic the Great. Paternal grandfather, Jewish Enlightenment philosopher Moses Mendelssohn. Pianist mother, Anna née Solomons. Salon-holding aunt, von Ornstein, Fanny's namesake, introduces the Christmas tree to Vienna. Father Abraham goes one step further, distancing himself from Judaism by adding the supposed Christian last name, Bartholdy. Both Fanny and her 4 years younger brother Felix were musical prodigies. They studied piano in Paris with Haydn student and composer Marie Bigot. Their co-composition teacher, Carl Friedrich Zelter, related to Goethe that, as a musician, Fanny was really special. Besides this overture in C, she wrote chamber music, 4 cantatas, more than 125 piano pieces, and over 250 songs. Her husband, artist Wilhelm Hensel, supported her compositional and publication endeavors, and her son, Sebastian, wrote a history of the Mendelssohn family. Felix's uncle, the diplomat Jacob Solomon, was the first to use the surname Bartholdy after an estate he owned. Abraham adopted it in 1812 and had his children baptized into the Reformed Protestant tradition 4 years later. Felix made his piano debut at 9 and compositional at 12. Goethe, who had heard Mozart at the same age, thought Mendelssohn was better. First published at 13 by Adam Moses Adolf Martin Schlesinger, 2 years later, his instructor and friend Isaac Ignaz Michaelis has little to teach him. And 2 years after that, produces his overture to A Midsummer Night's Dream at age 17. We'll hear part of this next week. And 3 years after this, conducts the revival of J.S. Bach's St. Matthew Passion, which is the key event in the revival of Bach's music. King of Prussia, Frederic William III, announces the 300th-year anniversary of the Lutheran Augsburg Confession, and Felix sets about writing what we now call his Symphony No. 5, subtitled by Fanny as the Reformation Symphony. Catches measles from his younger sister Rebecca, finishing the symphony too late. It's rejected by our old friend Habeneck as being too learned and maybe too Protestant. In its 4th movement, evocations of a mighty fortress is our God. Time to hit the road. Do mi do to sol fa re ti. The 4th symphony was written after but published before the 5th, which explains the numbering and reflects the composer's experiences in Italy, specifically Rome and Naples. Sole so so, so 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 so, tele so. Written inspired by a Neapolitan procession. So do te me fa so do re me so tele so. Composed 3 years after Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique. Notice how much more conservative the orchestration is, just the standard pairs of winds with horns used in the 3rd movement's trio section, and then brought back developmentally in the rather Mozartian minuet's coda. Again in Naples for the neo-medieval Saltarello jump dance finale. Re, me, fa, sol, le, fa, so, me, so, fa, mi, re, so, me. While many pieces start minor and end major, not many do the reverse, as here, specifically A major to A minor, in the spirit of the Mozart 5th Violin Concerto last movement. time to get married to Cecil, Charlotte, Sophie, Jean Renaud, performs before newlyweds Victoria and Albert. O ti filosofare do, re so re mi. Returning to A Midsummer Night's Dream, he writes incidental music, including a wedding march, first popularized by Victoria's daughter's union with Frederic William of Prussia. Violin concerto for Ferdinand David. So, me, do, so, me, re, do, le, do, so. Mendelssohn worked closely with David on the violin concerto, but maybe a little too closely with soprano Jenny Lind, the Swedish nightingale, writing her passionate love letters, threatening suicide. Upon Mendelssohn's death, Lind wrote, "He was the only person who brought fulfillment to my spirit, and almost as soon as I found him, I lost him again." A late oratorio, Elijah, written for the English. He was also adept at languages and art. Jenny Lind set up a Mendelssohn Memorial Scholarship, first won by Arthur Sullivan of later Gilbert and Sullivan fame. Nicolas Chopin leaves France to teach French to Polish aristocracy, marries poor noblewoman Tekla Justina Kryzanowska. They are both musical. First child Ludwika, then Frederic, born in this house on a noble estate. Family soon moves to live and work at Warsaw Lyceum, several different apartments. Surprise, Frederic Chopin is child prodigy, entertains at Belvedere Palace before Grand Duke Constantine Pavlovich of Russia. Why Russia? Poland has been partitioned amongst the Prussians, Austrians, and the Russians. Is no longer its own country. Frederick spends summers in this estate learning much Polish folk music. Performs before Tsar Alexander I. Achieves international success, so no matter how cushy accommodations in Warsaw are, with wonderful house concerts, time to hit the road for this student characterized as musical genius. Avoids Italy in revolution, which also breaks out in Warsaw after he leaves. Settles in Paris, which has settled down by now, thinking that he is on his way to London, but never gets there, never returns to Poland either, is part of Polish great immigration. Comes friendly with Hector Berlioz, Robert Schumann, who says, "Hats off, gentlemen! A genius." Ferdinand Hiller and Franz Liszt, an association with piano maker Camille Pleyel, plays in his Salle Pleyel once a year, goes to Carlsbad Spa, Czechia, meets with parents last time, re-encounters Maria Wodzinska, proposes to her next year. She accepts but then breaks it off. Her last letter to him he preserves in envelope marked "My Sorrow." On rebound meets George Sand through Franz Liszt. She takes male persona for literary purposes, smoking big cigars, as seen in this picture by Delacroix. They go to Mallorca in Mediterranean to escape cold Parisian winter, and Sand's irate former lover, Félicien Malafille, seeking refuge in the newly decommissioned Valdemosa monastery. But it rains there too, and you can hear it in Chopin's Piano Preludes, Opus 28. Inspired by Bach's 24 preludes and fugues, well, 48 when you count that he had 2 volumes, Chopin offers just 24 preludes, fugues being out of fashion. These are preludes to nothing. Or are they intended to be preludes to other pieces unnamed? Are they intended to be done as a set? Bach's go through chromatic steps of C major, C minor, C sharp major, C sharp minor. Chopin goes through the circle of fifths, C major, A relative minor, G major 1 sharp, and so on. The major ones tend to be quite fast. That first prelude, sort of like Bach's first on speed. The second in A minor, devastating, hard to play. A right hand of single lonely notes and a left hand of fairly complex chord changes, advanced harmony. This puts Chopin definitely amongst those liberal, progressive composers. G major, fast figuration again. So, E minor, lonely right hand again. Left hand with a series of inverted triads and 7th chords, descending chromatically, intuitively. Fingers are just moving down by half step, the composer asking, what does it sound like if I move this finger? Binary piece, or if you prefer, a variant. Here's the turnaround. Here's the climax in rhythmic complexity. Traditional 5/1 cadence still at the end. D major, more fast figuration. Dizzying allusions to minor and other chromaticisms. The E minor and now B minor preludes were played at Chopin's funeral. Do, me, so, do, me, re, me, do. Once again a lonely melody, but now this one in the left hand with the stately chords in the right. We've just moved from B minor to flat major 6, G major, bit o chromaticism. Again, a binary or A1 variant. Here's the second time around. We had a turnaround. Flat major 2, that devastating, noble Neapolitan chord that Beethoven loved as well. A 2-part coda on the same basic idea. False resolution on 6, Handel likes that too. There's the real resolution. And petering out again, now in the right hand.
Devastating.
Existential. It was really raining that winter, wasn't it? So, mi, fa, re, re, re. Is this a little nostalgic Mozart, early neoclassicism, or perhaps an evocation of the Polish mazurka? Seems self-conscious, nostalgic. Lots of poignant appoggiaturas, those dissonances on the downbeat, each phrase, such as that. Ah, yes. Climax. Ooh. All these so short and sweet and precious. Were they meant to be done together? Chopin never played more than 4 of them together in his life. We're skipping a bit. E flat minor, Evil. Mi, do, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do. And a nice turnaround again. Notice the pedal point, the drone ostinato on so, la, so. This is the so-called raindrop prelude, as Liszt is characterized by Hans von Bülow. D-flat major A section. The B turns us on a dime into C-sharp minor. I suppose it should be D-flat minor, but there'd be too many flats. Ominous, wonderful. Sole, so, fa, me. The C minor prelude called by Bülow the Funeral March, and it's appropriate. Chopin, not feeling well, Sand abandons him. Jane Sterling rents a suite for him in Place Vendôme, which you can rent in present day. He dies there. George Sand's daughter's husband, Auguste Clesinger, makes death mask, hand, grave monument. Sister smuggles vital organ back to Poland. Talk about, I left my heart in Warsaw. What did Haydn's employer, Nicholas Esterhazy, think of the young virtuoso growing up in his household? What did Beethoven think when he met the 11-year-old Hungarian child prodigy, Franz Liszt? What did Salieri think teaching him? Liszt became the youngest composer to do a variation in the Diabelli variations. Liszt's passionate romanticism was probably partly due to Christian Urhan. He meets Berlioz in Paris the day before the premiere of Symphonie Fantastique, does a piano transcription, hears the violinist Niccolo Paganini and vows to become the Paganini of piano. Meets Chopin, they are friends, rivals. Meets Countess Marie de Gaulle, and she leaves her husband to be with Liszt, worshipping him, as you can see in his oft-seen salon. There she is. They have 2 daughters, Blondine and Cosime, the latter marrying sequentially Hans von Bülow and Richard Wagner. He leaves the family at Lake Como while he continues his concert touring. Lisztomania sweeps Europe. The crowds are ecstatic. Women scream and throw their unmentionables at him. He is rich and generous, spends summers with the family in Nonnenwerth on Rhine, but the couple splits up. Long-time relationship with Caroline Suzanne Wittgenstein settles in Weimar near Wagner, eventually channeling the Dies Irae once more in his Totentanz, Dance for the Dead, sometimes playing such dissonant music almost with tone clusters. Very adventurous music late in life. Takes minor orders as a cleric. Meets Debussy.